Today we're going to review the top 5 kingdoms that hit the hardest and have the most power in Rise of Kingdoms. These kingdoms are the ones that you really don't want to bet against when they enter into KVK, and man, they look incredibly strong. Stick around in this video for the top 5 as of summer 2023. Hello my friends and welcome back. I'm Chisgule Gaming, and today's video is sponsored by the makers of Rise of Kingdoms. And once a quarter, I like to go in and get a look at which kingdoms I think are the very best in the game. Now, this is a little bit difficult to decipher because although there are some tools that help us look at power and also kill points, I think that some of the data can be a little bit misleading. For example, I want to put up this information from rockboard.com, which is a great resource. In fact, is the most commonly used resource that I look to for information about how strong kingdoms are. And what you'll notice in the data that I put on the screen is that these are the top kingdoms by tier 4 and tier 5 combined kill points, but they're only looking at the top 300 players by power. Well, some of the kingdoms on this list have way more than 300 players that swing big. That includes 365, that includes 1093, who I also have on the screen behind me. So in this video, we're going to draw some of our own conclusions about the kingdoms that I think are the very strongest. And there's going to be a couple kingdoms that I think probably are on this list, and I'm not sure which one sort of belongs on the list. So I might even expand this to 6, quite frankly, because there are probably 6 really good candidates for this list. So let's start with 1093. And 1093 has obviously been a kingdom that's been around for a very, very long time. They have many alliances, and their strength has always been in their numbers. They have a lot of players that are all really committed, and they all have a variety of punch. Now, right now, players are shifting around between alliances for Ark of Osiris, so I don't want to look too heavily into the power of these particular alliances, but what I want to point out is that they've got 1, 2, 3 alliances at least, all over 10 billion power, and that signals that they are a pretty large kingdom. Here's a 4th alliance that, look, if they were full-on members, they'd be over 10 billion power. So this is a kingdom that's got a lot of alliances and a lot of players and a lot of potential. If you underestimate 1093, you're almost certainly making a mistake. The second kingdom that we need to talk about on the list that I think probably is actually the strongest kingdom right now, like if you put this kingdom in a 1v1, I would say it's probably likely to win, and that is 1365. Now, 1365... what is there to say? They have a lot of alliances, they have an insane amount of kill points, and to look at the top 300 players by power does not do this kingdom justice. Just as the case with 1093, I think that each of their alliances has like over 1 trillion kill points or something insane. And yeah, they've got a lot of really powerful alliances, at least 4 of them. They've got JG, BLN, JST, and OG. As of this moment, if we look at the power in these alliances, JG is at about 10.7 billion. JST, holding the temple, is at about 12.3 billion. Over here, BLN is chilling at 13 billion. And also OG is sitting at 12.6 billion. Again, I'm less interested in the power right now because folks are shifting around between alliances for Ark. But I think that this is probably the strongest kingdom due to their depth of players. The only thing that gets a little bit weird about this is that every player is a lot lower power than you might expect. Like, yeah, there are, of course, players over 100 million, but like 94, 75, 80, 76, like 78, 75, 91, 75. Like, to have a kingdom with 1,000 players where each one has probably at least 6 billion kill points, like, I mean, it's very impressive, but also each individual player at that point doesn't have that many troops that they can get rid of before they start losing their field marches. So I definitely think that they're playing into the meta here by having lots of players. It's just really difficult to maintain, and you need every single person to be doing their part. Okay, from here, Another kingdom on the list, and these are not really in any particular order, but we look at 365, now we've got to go get a look at 1960, of course. 1960 is undefeated. So if you were wondering, hey, what's one of the strongest kingdoms in the game? I mean, it's obvious to say that one of the undefeated, if not the only undefeated kingdoms in the game, is truly one of the strongest. And, you know, look, KVK is about a lot of things, and no one alliance wins a KVK, no one kingdom wins a KVK, but the fact that they've won every single KVK, I mean, man, that is impressive. They're currently at about 13.5 billion power, but again, some number of players have shifted for Arc right now, but they are a 2-alliance kingdom. And those 2 alliances have such an absurd amount of kill points, it's actually insane. The combined kill points in the top 300 players for kill points in this kingdom is almost 3 trillion. It's 2.85 trillion kill points, which is disgusting. So this is the 2-alliance kingdom model, and I think this model works really, really well. And now we're emulating that model in 2605. We can only hope to have as much success as they have, but we'll see. We've got a lot of building to do before we get to anywhere near that point, okay? From here, I want to go to a kingdom that has been on this list before, and they've made it back, in my opinion. And this is in part because they had an absolutely monster migration. 846 is back in action, man, and they're hitting on all cylinders. It's actually really impressive that they grew a ton, had a big dip, and removed a bunch of players, but then recovered from that dip and now make it back onto the list. I feel like that is an uncommon feat to accomplish, which makes it all the more impressive. You've got WIB currently at 14.5 billion power, but look at their member count here. They are full member count. We look around, and they've got just many alliances in this kingdom. You've got Sin sitting at 10 billion power. Over here, we've got Lit sitting at 11.8 billion power. And if we get a look around, do they have any other main alliances? They might be a 3 to 4 alliance kingdom at this point. We looked at WIB, we looked at Sin, we looked at Lit. Okay, that might be it. They are a very large kingdom. I fought against both 846 and 365 last KVK, and they both had, I think, pretty transformative migrations. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they perform in their next KVK. And I think they're going to be on the same map as us, but who knows? We don't know for sure. I think we're all queued potentially for Warriors Unbound. Also, while I'm here, I would be remiss not to mention that this is the kingdom that is the home of the football superstar Makote. And I think what's really impressive about Makote is that he basically sends all his troops to die and then trains more until he's out of gems and out of speed ups and out of resources. Like, he has 322 million dead T5s. I want you to just think about that for a minute. That's 3.2 billion power of dead T5s. That's actually dumb. That's insane. Dumb isn't like really powerful or really just really impressive. Like, I can't even. I don't even know where to start. There are some huge contributors over here, okay, in 846. And Makote has to be one of the most, I think, famous players in all of Rise of Kingdoms. The only player who had more deaths in a single KVK is Yoda. But when you look at the contribution over so many KVKs, Makote is just thrown down time and time again. It's just really impressive. Okay. From here, let's get a look at two kingdoms. And since we're looking at all-star renowned players, why don't we get a look at 2489? And 2489 just finished KVK, battling against 1960, and they have grown pretty substantially. Now, the last time I did this list, I was like, yo, you might see them in the top 5. And I think they are in that top 5. And there is one more kingdom we do need to talk about that also should potentially go on this list. So I'm going to kind of cheat this time around and give you 6. But 2489 is the home of Fa and many of the players from 556. So we had a huge rivalry against a bunch of these players. And it was actually the most fun gameplay I think I've had in my Rise of Kingdoms history, was those KVKs in all those rivalries. Right now, the Celestial Guardians, who, by the way, have their Osiris title on display, full-on members, are at 14.7 billion kill points. Keep in mind, some players are probably still shifted for Arc. And also, if we look at another alliance over here, the Victorious Cats, 13.4 billion power, looking pretty full, even though they're at 140 out of 155. And keep in mind, you see 140 out of 155, there's probably some farms in there as well. When people leave for Arc, farms join in, right? And this alliance is currently got Fa as the leader. So Fa is a player I've covered on my channel before. And I mean, the dude is just super freaking chill and wails like crazy, man. He's got 33 billion kill points, and his dead troop count, it's almost 2.2 billion power in dead troops, okay? And of course, we can't be talking about 2489 without also talking about Baba. Baba at over 1.1 billion power, 45 billion kill points, almost, with 2.5 billion power, almost, worth of dead troops. Yo. This kingdom is another one that you really don't want to bet against. They are, I think, running the 2 Alliance Kingdom model, and you can kind of see that with the territory. I mean, 2 alliances sharing the territory over here. And we'll talk more about this in just a minute, but I think I just think that big kingdoms are all shrinking. Big kingdoms are not as big as they used to be. They're all shrinking. So the 2 alliance model is looking pretty smart, and honestly, we may come down to a 1 alliance model at some point. I don't know that we're there yet. Now, from here, we need to talk about one other kingdom. It's sort of a dark horse on the list, and that is 1034. You may be like, whoa, 1034? What the heck? Isn't that where 1V is? The, I think, most winning Ark of Osiris League team of all time. And I think that they did have a little bit of a split, but also then a huge migration into the kingdom. So 1V is the sort of banner alliance in 1034, and they're looking good these days. If we get a look over here, 1V, currently at 13.7 billion power. They are in KVK, so it's a little bit weird. There's probably some dead troops here. So let's not look too much at the power numbers, as I've been saying throughout the video. The thing that I want to call attention to is the fact that they've got a lot of kill points, and they also had, I believe, a big migration in from 1664. I think that was the kingdom, but I don't want to be quoted on that. But we battled against these guys in the past. Look at this. Almost 15 billion power. Yo, but they're in KVK, and they probably have some dead troops. So I don't want to, again, look too much at power here for comparison purposes, but I think that 1034 is also a kingdom that, I want to see them fight another super powerhouse kingdom. And as I mentioned, they are in KVK right now, right? 1034. We can show you this right here. They battled against 1079, who is Imperium, 2112, who is Imperium. But I heard that 1034 Field was able to just really clean house in this particular KVK. And this is the Orleans KVK, so let me explain this. If you own the field, you win the KVK. It's kind of that simple. So it will be really interesting to see 1034 fight against other kingdoms that were in this list, like either 1960, 365, 2489, 846, or 1093. So that is 6 kingdoms that I think you really need to look at. And when we take a step back and we just look at the trend happening in this game right now, I think the trend is pretty obvious. Kingdoms are getting skinnier and skinnier. The Imperium line is getting kind of lower and lower. So what does that mean? The strongest kingdoms, although players are getting stronger individually with their accounts, as a kingdom, I think that the number of players and the amount of power is actually going down. And I think that the game is very subtly and very slowly moving into a world where 3 alliance kingdoms become 2 alliance kingdoms, 2 alliance kingdoms, potentially even become, 1.5 alliance kingdoms, 1 alliance kingdoms. And we just don't see what we used to see in this game, which is 6, 7, 8 alliance kingdoms that were absolutely insane activity. And I think that's not necessarily a bad thing, because I generally find that smaller skirmishes are more fun than like massive, everybody on the field can't see what you're doing fights. But we'll see how it goes, man. Right now, we're queued up for Warriors Unbound. Very much looking forward to playing in this KVK. We'll see who we get matched with. I haven't actually played this KVK format before, so I'm looking forward to sort of tricks with how this KVK works, where you get, I think it's an artifact, and you put it on your secondary commander, and it changes all the words of one troop type to another. So you can make a cavalry commander an infantry commander, for example. I'm an infantry player, so that's all I think about. So I'm very much looking forward to Warriors Unbound. In terms of our own progress as a kingdom, we made it, and again, players are already starting to move around for arcs. This is a little bit weird, but we made it to about 16 point, actually, we're already there. We're at over 16.5 billion power in SW, and also our second alliance is at 9 billion power, and then for kill points, we're at over 1 trillion when we've got all our main members in. And our second alliance is very much in a proving / growing stage. This is where a lot of the players who are already in the kingdom are now, and they all need to kind of show up and do their thing in KVK. And I'm very much looking forward to that. And I'm also looking forward to figuring out after this KVK how we recruit. Do we move in on really like truly a 2 alliance kingdom model and recruit a ton of players to the second alliance? Do we focus primarily on the main alliance and bring more players here? I don't know what we're going to do yet, and it's all premature to even talk about. But the overall trend is that kingdoms are getting smaller. Again, those top kingdoms, if you were betting on who's going to win in KVKs, and honestly, who we'd like to see fight each other, again, it's 1960, 365, 2489, 1846, 1034, and last but not least, of course, 1093. I just read those off in the order that they were in the top 300 kill point list, so don't read into that too much, man. If you enjoyed the vid, do me a huge favor, throw a like on here, consider subscribing. I update this list every 3 months. If you want to see the last version of this list, card will be in the end screen in just a second.